Hello and welcome to this session. We have with us Professor Shalini Bharat. She's the Vice Chancellor Director of the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. She's also particularly interested in the Center for Health and Social Sciences and the School of Health System Studies. Professor Bharat, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over.
Ma'am, this has been clearly a very, very trying time for educational institutions across the world and more so in India. And this being a leader at a global level is also a sort of a torch bearer in terms of best practices that are coming out in these times on how to manage education going forward. What are some of the areas you see which have changed right now and where you see major change going ahead?
Um, you rightly say that this is really a time which we never imagined would be upon us, and something which was not just sudden, but something which was so novel and left all of us unprepared. So I think what we have been experiencing and what we think is happening at this point in time is um, how do we maintain educational continuity? Because our stakeholders, our prime stakeholders, are students, and how to protect them from this kind of a shock so that they do not have a long-term impact of this pandemic. And I thought that as leaders, there was something which was in our hand to help maintain that continuity. So our first task was how do we manage that? We were, I think, on the cusp of having online teaching, and we had some tools and we had technology, but we had never done complete online teaching, or we hadn't done semesters completely devoted to that, or especially evaluations, assessments, examinations. But I think we had to think standing on our feet, so to say, and we brought online teaching, online semester closing to our advantage. We quickly jacked up every technology, every tool that we had, and we reached out to students wherever they were, and made a lot of flexibility was brought into our assessment systems, attendance, all that. We thought that being rigid about all this would adversely impact the students. So that agility and flexibility that we had to bring in was something which was important for us to keep going, and we did that, especially also in terms of our admission. Online, everything went online, and we were able to manage, and I think we did a decent job of it.
Right. This has also been a period of learning how to lead in the times of crisis. Right? So,
Yes.
yes, at a practical level, I'm sure things worked out well, but there must be so much beneath the surface, and you would have some great lessons, I'm sure, to share.
Yes, I think one of the lessons I learned was how to be really agile in our thinking and innovate with whatever we have. Remember that we were not prepared for it, so we had only limited resources. So how do we best use those resources, I think, was a great learning. The other thing was to really understand our student population. We needed to know who they are. Of course, we always have a profile of students, but we really needed to know where were they returning and how remotely were they placed. And this kind of a information database was extremely important for us. So we did surveys for both our student community and for our faculty community to learn, what kind of challenges they're going to face in teaching, learning, and also how do we reach out to them in terms of providing them the kind of, data bank that is needed, or sometimes we have distributed laptops and smartphones to students so that they can continue with this. And this would not have been possible if we did not actually collect our own data rather than depend on some other party or even students themselves. So that was one learning. The other learning was that we have to demonstrate inclusivity and diversity and equity in all our functions and services. Without this demonstrated ability to support our diversified population of students as well as faculty, I think this would not have been possible for us to go forward. A third thing we learned was that actually we can do quite a few things now going forward. For example, faculty sharing among our campuses, So we have 4 campuses, and we found that, some faculty can teach now across campuses. We don't have to really worry about, oh, there is, faculty shortage here or there. So we quickly put our faculty to use for other campuses, and they were very willing. So instead of having, say, a class of 40, now faculty may have a class of 100. But then, teaching is possible online. So I think some of these learnings were great to our advantage. Also, we learned that, maybe going forward, a hybrid model or a blended teaching model would be, possible, at least for some kind of courses. And how do we make sure that the student enrollment ratio doesn't go down? Students don't lose interest in a physical, infrastructure, brick and mortar kind of a, university, and that they don't lose, interest in gaining, higher degrees. So we had to demonstrate this by making sure that they know we are able to reach out even in this time of crisis. I think, and of course, team building and team work was something which I appreciated, because all of us are rallied around this and we pulled it off, I would say, in a way.
So a lot of new initiatives that actually came out because of the solutions that you sort of looked into for some of the problems.
Yes, in fact, we were happy that several of the things that we thought we would not be able to do, we actually did in-house. For example, our online personal interviews for the new admissions. We were in the middle of admissions, and suddenly this thing just got disrupted. And we found that we could count upon our IT, team to develop a model which would allow all of us, all faculty, to do online interviews. And it actually worked very well. In fact, we are now going to adopt that model going forward, because we thought, why were we having all candidates come physically to the campuses? Then we spend so much time. But here we were able to, and with less, time spent and fewer errors. So I think that was something which we have learned clearly in this pandemic.
Sure.
That is possible. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Ma'am, at a personal level, as a leader, as an individual, obviously, we've all been affected, some more, some less, with the pandemic, working from home, the lockdown. What are some of your thoughts there, and, your experiences?
Yes, as you said, we all felt vulnerable, not just, somebody who's outside, and not just somebody will be, can be affected with COVID. We all were affected. We all felt vulnerable. And in fact, it was not just working from home, it was working for home also. Sure. So this working for home and working from home, I think this balance that had to be created was something which was, which actually taught many new things also. One that, we have to just be patient. I think, one lesson that I learned was that when you are hit by a pandemic, which is so unprecedented, which is not just, your own country's problem, but it's a global problem, then you can do precious little except to really feel that, you have to be patient. Everybody has to be patient, and to calm our nerves down and to feel mentally agile and fit in order to become, to develop your immunity. Immunity cannot just be through your, what you drink and what you eat and so on, but how do you keep your mental, well-being, and how do you keep calm and spread that calmness around. So I've had talks with my, our staff. I've had talks with people who come to work now for us after many, many months. And I have had talks with attendants in the offices now that we work at least sometimes in the offices. And, tell them that completely feel free to say that you feel vulnerable, that you are, not able to come because of this reason. And it should be possible for you to keep your safety at, uppermost in mind. And to be able to see not only that you are vulnerable, but everybody else is vulnerable, and their health has to be taken care of. So I think eating well and sleeping well and taking a little bit of rest and keeping your mental nerves, in control has been a big, lesson that one has learned in
So
this time.
a renewed focus on sort of personal health, well-being, both physical and mental.
Physical and mental, and also, as I said, becoming a little more concerned and aware about everybody's vulnerability. So, it's not about only but you have to be understanding if people are not able to come. In fact, my colleagues have gone back home because their elderly parents were perhaps all by themselves. Some people were here, stuck here, but they're all functioning. So there's, if if the institute is able to function, you've got to give that much space and time for people to take their health in their own hands. And we can't be, talking about, rules and regulations which come in the way of people's functioning. So that, I think, was a big lesson learned. And of course, at a personal level, to, tinker around your home and to perfect your culinary abilities and do a little bit of different things. I think I did many different things in this lockdown period than I would have done. Yeah.
You mentioned work from home and work for home. There's also
Yes.
now learning from home, LFH, right? I mean, all your students are learning from home, and most organizations who are now having employees working from home will also be expected to learn from home. Any
Yes.
any key pointers you would have for chief learning officers of large organizations or even employees on what possibly they should look into when expecting employees to learn from home?
I think, self-discipline, because very easily one can just get into, a very laid back style, or you know, we can do it tomorrow kind of a thing. One thing I've learned is that self-discipline and maintain your routine as you would in other situations or in the normal, the pre-COVID times, I think has been very important. I've always felt that in the morning, I'm beginning my office. I come to my, work desk at the same time. I maintain that, timing of 10 to 5:45, which is the normal office hours. Of course, one works beyond and before and so on. But
Sure.
at least this, and that you come to your own, workspace as much as possible, and you try and, see that you are, business-like, you are in an office-like environment, and do not allow anything else to come, in between. So not to have those excuses, okay, I'm working from home and this is not possible, this cannot happen. I think one will have to create that space and time for oneself if you want to work from home and work for home. And learning from home, yes, of course, in the case of students and many others.
Right.
It's a challenge though, but one will have to get used to it, and one is getting used to it, and my students are getting used to it. So it's yeah.
Before we end, ma'am, you've obviously worked a lot in the health space, and you're a trained psychologist as well.
Yeah.
Mental health is now really coming to the fore, and
Yes.
whether it's work from home or whether it's the environment in general, what are your views on how corporates can really take up the challenge of ensuring good mental well-being for their leaders and overall employees?
I think corporates would do well to keep mental health right there, in the focus, and not just for, looking good, because, a lot of the time when we say that we are, we look after mental health of people, it has to be done. There has to be a demonstrated capacity to do it. And one of the very important things is that to learn, what mental health really is all about. Mental health is not just about, depression we have been talking about. There are many, many ways in which people suffer, and sometimes silently. So what are some of those simple symptoms, signals which people have, which probably are going to be very important for, for our, for the corporate sector to understand, just a second, sorry. For corporate sector to understand that it's not just about the most serious of cases. It's also about situations which make people vulnerable. It could just be, somebody making a loose talk, somebody, saying something about somebody's background, and so on. And that kind of a orientation and approach has to be there in all corporate bodies and organizations.
So really, you're talking about ingraining it in the culture at a very basic level, at a very day-to-day level.
Yeah, and also I would think investing in some mental health professionals to be part of the corporate culture as somebody not needed only when there is a crisis situation, when people actually have lots of problems, but also to prevent mental health becoming a major issue. So maybe investing in human resource for mental health and well-being.
So going the preventive route, before a issue comes up.
Yes, issue comes up. Yeah. And to have mental health professionals,
Sure.
Part of your HR.
Yeah. Sure. Well, thank you so much, ma'am. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and some great valuable insights from you. Wish you all the best, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me over.